Welcome everyone to our book series launch. This is such an exciting time because this is the first time SCRA has done something like this. And so we're going to have 2 sessions where you're going to get to hear a little bit from each of the authors that have taken the time to commit to this work, this seminal work in terms of creating an open access textbook. And so we appreciate that you came and that you are taking the time to help us in this launch in terms of getting the word out, spreading the book so students are able to access, not just students, but those that really want to learn more about practice work in the field of community psychology are able to access this material. So thank you again for being in this space. And now I will pass it on over to Jerry, who is one of the editors of this seminal work.
Yep. Thank you, Amber. We are so excited this morning. And so everyone here, this is when we say live, we really mean live because nobody's prepared anything, what they're going to say or any of that. So we'll enjoy ourselves, right? With a real live event. You know, we didn't practice for weeks and months. We just said, okay, we can do this. And that's probably because we have been working on this book. We're calling it an e-textbook, which it is. And we've been working on it for a couple of years now. I think we started in 2020 and worked all through 21. And considering the tumultuous time that we have all come through, you know, we're so excited that we got it done, that, you know, I mean, it turned out well considering what, you know, some of the implications really during the time period that we were working on it, et cetera. And so, you know, I just want to thank everybody so much for those of you who said, yes, I'll put a chapter in. And we have authors here, Jackie Samuel, and who worked with Pilar, I see is here. And we appreciate you so much for allowing us to use your work. Yes, we thank you much for that. I see, I did see Judy. Yeah, Judy Albel is here, and she's one of our authors as well. Judah, editor, Todd, editor. And so, you know, we are community here, and I think that we are living out what community looks like in all of its many facets.
Amber also contributed chapters as well.
Who is that? Deidre. Yeah, I see Deidre. So yeah, if I don't name you, Judah, help me out here. That's where I got my teammates, right? I got my community here, my people with me, so they can fill in all the gaps that, of course, I might miss. Yep. And so, and you know, we just want to give, yeah, go ahead, Judah.
And Amber, don't want to forget Amber.
Yeah, cannot forget Amber, who's serving as ED and author and some more stuff that I know she does in the community practitioner. She's one of those people with 5 jobs. I think most of us can relate to that as well. So I just want to acknowledge everyone who is here. And again, this afternoon or this evening at 6 EST, or I should say daylight, say EDT now with daylight saving time. This afternoon, of course, 5 for CST. We'll come back. We have a couple of more authors who have will join us. And so we'll just have a good time this morning talking about this process and the great work that we've done on this book. And so I just want to give you a little context. I won't be long because this is really the author's time. This is their time to shine. But just a little background on, you know, how we got here, right? Well, you know, I was actually, and I'm gonna make this a real long story, and if I fly really fast, don't worry, you could go to the book and read how this all happened. So we've always got a backup on, you know, what's going on. But I was looking for case studies in social psychology. Actually, I was teaching social psychology at the time. And so I started combing, of course, on where do we go? To the internet, of course, right? And so I went to the internet to find out if there was a book solely dedicated to case studies in social psychology. And there was one. And so when I say solely dedicated, it wasn't a textbook with just excerpts of case studies that practitioners had you know done in the community, but it was dedicated solely to that. And they had some references to the case stories, et cetera. And so I said, wow, of course, being the community psychologist that I am, I said, wow, wait a minute, we don't have this. I know that there were books out. I and Judah and I think Amber and a couple of us had just not too long did chapters or completed chapters in Lenny Jason et al. Introduction to Community Psychology, also published in Rebus Press Books, which is an open education resource platform. And so I liked it. I liked the fluidity. I liked the that it was dynamic, that you could use the images and videos. And so that was sort of my introduction to OER. I had seen it, but I hadn't, focused in on it to that end. So that was my introduction to it. And so, of course, Todd is my co-founder of Community Wellness Institute. And we had a conversation about we had prior conversations about it. There's so much in this context, so I will really try to make this short, right? But we had conversations about, hey, you know what? There's the DSM for clinical psychology, but where is our community psychology comparable manual to the DSM, right? Community has intricacies that we want to, know about, and how do we really use psychology in the community, et cetera. And so we started working with that. And then I want to, of course, put forward that who else would I call but my formal dissertation chair, Judah Viola, and said, hey, Judah, I need you to think about this. What do you think? He said, I think it's a good idea. So I said, okay, cool. And so we moved forward with, trying to put it together, put the call to action out, or the call for chapters, actually. And interestingly, the response was overwhelming. I must have gotten maybe 50 responses, and attrition occurs. And so, of course, it didn't end up being 50 at that particular point, but we did, end up with 11 authors who said yes, and we began to do abstracts and then, of course, full manuscripts. And then, of course, we had them. So I do want you to know today that we did have them peer reviewed. They are peer reviewed, in fact, with a couple of peers, including graduate students, professors, longtime professors, et cetera. So we had a full range of peer reviewers. And so we were comfortable that we were producing scholarly yet material that was interesting and wasn't stuffy, but the stories would be of interest to students who've read it. And so long story short, and any of you, Todd or Judah, if I'm missing anything pertinent that we should share this morning, please jump in and fill those gaps in for me. But that's sort of the basic gist. We went to Rebus Press Books again, based partially on the fact that we had completed the chapters in Jason et al.'s Introduction to Community Psychology textbook, and got into a textbook success program that you have to complete before you can publish on their platform, which was great because we learned a lot. Of course, it was if I want to say 9 months, a session that we had to complete with them. We want to acknowledge this morning Society for Community Research and Action. Most of us know it as SCRA, who generously provided us with a grant to help us publish the book, as well as Textbook Authors and Academic Association. Also provided us with a small grant, as well as Community Wellness Institute, which is Todd and I's LLC that we co-founded in 2018 to be an umbrella for all of the community work that he and I both are interested in. And Todd is an industrial psychologist as well. And so we have this synergy, combining these two psychological disciplines, community psychology, industrial org. Together to think through workplaces and communities and all the spaces, right, that we all, interact with on a daily basis. So I think that's pretty much, what I, want to give out. Judah, Todd, anything else before we open this great space up for the authors that we want to get out to our audience today?
I think the only thing I would add, Jerry, is that we view it as a living document, and our goal is to continue to expand and welcome in new case studies, and even potentially eventually have a section for student research, as it is something to help bridge the gap for students to the practitioner side.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Todd. I appreciate that. And that's one of the reasons why we went to the OER space. What it is dynamic. We'll be putting a call out soon as we could collect ourselves for additional chapters, and hope that some of you will join us in this great venture as well.
Thanks, Jerry. I'd say let's keep it moving forward, and love to hear from the authors. And for those who are in attendance as audience members, feel free to chime in with questions along the way. You can jot them in the chat if you're afraid to interrupt, but you can also just unmute yourself and say, I've got a quick question. Thanks for being here.
So, yep, anyone want to join in or chime in now, feel free. I won't call on you. I'll leave the space open for you to do that. So go ahead.
And Amber, were you going to pose a question for each of the authors to get it kicked off?
Yeah. So for each of us that decided to participate in this initiative, what inspired you to participate?
Okay.
I see Judy's ready. Go for it, Judy.
Greetings to you all. Yeah, it's good to be involved in this positive activity today. I'm sitting in Rome, and we're very close to the war. So that's the main thing that's on my mind. So yeah, good to be involved in this positive activity today. Yeah, I would, let's see, the question about why was I interested in being involved with this? Yeah, just a little bit of background. I'm not an academic. I define myself as a social scientist practitioner. And I've been working in Africa, mostly in West Africa, for the past 20 years, and really working in community programs. And through all of this, really trying to tease out, important elements from a number of different fields, and use them in community programs. My academic background is in anthropology and in public health and in adult education. Now, just to mention that, because so the programs that I've mostly been involved with, maternal and child health, and then now with adolescent issues, really fall under the rubric of public health programs. And it's even I was at UNC, where I did my master's in public health in August, and still distressing to find that when I asked a number of people at UNC, to what extent is a systems perspective being discussed, being taught? And people were saying, well, yeah, that's important, but not really. So I think, yeah, I'm sort of as I said, not formally trained in community psychology, but my work with communities and with development organizations, ministries, and all, has been very much influenced by community psychology. And so the chapter, or my interest, was in really with grounding in key concepts, and in a simplified way, given the purpose of this book, to discuss our community program in West Africa. And so just briefly, I have a nonprofit organization which is called Grandmother Project, Change Through Culture, and started out mostly working on issues related to but became increasingly aware from having worked in Africa, actually Asia and Latin America, the real gap, the cultural gap between policies and programs and between policies and programs. And so, and talking about the cultural gap, I think in the non-Western world, certain key elemental cultural elders, unfortunately, up until today, most of the programs are, very much couched in a Western view of families and relationships and don't include elders. So, so the program and the chapter is really about our intergenerational and grandmother inclusive program in Senegal. And I would just would like to make a small pitch because I think there's been a number of evaluations, external evaluations done of our program, and number of pieces of research with graduate students and all, but unfortunately none with really a community psych kind of perspective, more interested in the public health outcomes. So just a pitch, should any of you have any ideas or to pass this on to others, we would be very interested in having a master's student, but more preferably a doctoral student who would be interested in looking at our community-based program that's been going now for 12 years. And we would need a French speaker, but anyway, would like to mention that because I think there's a mine of information and of learning that could come out of an analysis, as I say, from more of a community psych perspective. So thank you.
Thanks, Judy. Yeah, we were thrilled to have your contribution to the book. I think having the perspective of the combination of public health and anthropology mixed in with that really engaged community work that's trying to be inclusive across cultures is really what we're trying to share information about through the book, and taking that global lens and not just being focused on our current contexts. So thank you.
Good, great.
Yes, thank you, Judy. Yeah, it was a fantastic inclusion in the textbook.
I think I'll go next. I don't know why I feel so nervous, but I think because this project was really very special to me. So I've been working with communities for over 30 years, and it has definitely been a calling in whatever kind of work I've been doing. I actually started in the arts and theater, and I'll never forget, I went from theater and the next thing I knew, I was engaged in community development. And I don't, I kind of don't know what happened in that transition. I thought I was going to be, like auditioning and performing on Broadway, but I realized it was more than that. It was, I love people and I love working with people. And, like some of my artist friends would say, well, don't you miss theater? And I'm like, community is theater, and I enjoy the engagement, that comes out of it, and the relationships that comes out of it. And so, Jerry, I just have to really thank you so much. So when I received that email, I was like, yes, I have to tell this story. So what happens with me when I'm working with community, when I'm doing events, I I always look for those kind of like epiphany moments. Like, why are we here? Why did we come together? What is that what is this really all about? And so throughout my life, in all these different jobs and positions I've been in, Pilar has always been there. Pilar has been there in various ways. And I've always been intrigued by her 100%. It's like when she gives it all. And it's fascinating to work with her, to see what she puts into everything she does, her family, her work, her love, her life, a love for life, you know and so you know I'm so glad that this part was quoted here, and I have to read it because it's really so true. It says, Pilar is never short of giving back her time, her guidance, and healing efforts to those that give and support her. And there's this unspoken reciprocity noted between Pilar and her followers, which I will call the village approach. And some call it paying it forward, and that's what she does. And so I've had numerous of experiences, but this was the story I felt I had to tell, because as Black women, we go through a lot, and it's so difficult to find those moments where we can really be ourselves and share and laugh and giggle. you know and when I say giggle, that's that child in us that comes out. So to have experienced this is really like no other. I can't wait for COVID to be over, so that, because I know that when people see this, you really won't believe the kind of experience that comes out of women that gather and share their love and their talent. And there were a lot of epiphanies in this moment. One, the personal one, was actually, and I talk about this, is bringing my mother to this event. It was very, very humbling, because at the time, I think my mother was maybe 92. And I'll never forget her. Everybody was coming up to my mother in awe of her age and her spirit and her liveliness. And I was getting a little jealous. I was just like, wait a minute, this is my mama, you know? And I just, and she was just taking it in and enjoying it. And it was like, this event, I felt, brought the child out of my mother, because for the first time, and we don't see it often enough, but this opportunity allowed for the elders to lead, to guide. And so one of the ending experiences that, like, after we gather, after we share, after we laugh, we pray, we exercise, we engage, we allow the youth to speak, we walk to the waters to cleanse. And I remember in walking, to the lake, the elders are in the front of the line. And I remember my mother looking at me, and she's like, am I gonna have to get in that water? I said, mm-hmm, you sure do. And I didn't know whether she was gonna do it or not, And she got in that water, and and I just started laughing. I was like, I didn't think she'd do it, but she was always a daredevil in her life, so she walked in that water and splashed around, and it was amazing. But the important moment for me was when we got out of the water and we were heading home, because we had had a full day. And I remember I was walking and I was like, oh my gosh, all the sand on my feet. So we get to the car and I just look at my mom. I'm like, I want to clean your feet. I want to clean your feet. She's like, oh, no, you don't have to do that. I'll just knock this off, you know? And I was just like, no, I want to clean your feet. I needed to feel that moment to give my mother that honor. And this is, you know, like all of this came out of this experience of engagement and that whole being healing centered, because what my mother didn't realize at that moment, cleaning her feet was healing to me. It was my thank you. It was my gratitude. And that was my epiphany moment. So whenever I'm, you know, working with community, I always look for those moments that changes my heart, changes my feelings. And so that's what this chapter, it's a really, it's a tribute to Black women, to women of color. And I'm just so honored that I had that opportunity. And I always have to say, every time I work with Pilar, I was like, man, you did it again. You make me cry, you know. And I'm just so appreciative that not only did I have that experience, but that I was able to share it, you know, in written form with all of you. And all I can say is, you know, Pilar, you need to put a link or something in this chat. And I would just say, follow her, because you will have, I guarantee, a great experience of a lifetime, because she really brings life to living. And for right now, I'm just going to stop right there. I'm just going to stop right there.
Thank you, Jackie. And I just want to just dive in. I love you so much. And I just want to say that I also want to give pay homage to the people who help provide the resources and the path for artists like me to be able to do what we do for the community. Jackie says I've been there since the beginning, but she's been there since the beginning. And I literally had 2 nickels to rub together in a big idea. And Jackie saw my passion and did everything she could to help give me the resources. And I made $1 out of 15 cents and made it do what it do. And then not only that, but she was there to celebrate it and support it. So Jackie, thank you. And I love you to pieces. Congratulations, Jerry and team.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Pilar. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I can go next. So what really inspired me to really be a part of this was giving voice to a topic I didn't see a lot of in terms of being represented, and something that was near and dear to my heart in terms of the work that I've done and that I do with people that live with a disability. And I was also noticing when you see the term inclusion, it includes disability and ability, but it's not something that's talked about as much. You see race, you see gender, you see these other spectrums which matter, which are important, but I was not seeing that space being occupied. And so I have a nonprofit organization, Community Engagement Collective, where our mission is to foster human-centered connections through community-engaged events and research. And our inclusion series is what I talked about in the book chapter, Dare to Dialogue, where we had people who lived with a disability share their story in an event. And when it was time to market the event, I didn't use any labels that related to that specific identification, because really wanted people to come and be open to the experience and the opportunity. And so we did 3 different events. And the first one was highlighting a physical disability, the second a cognitive, and then doing a movie event that really immersed both of those. And in those spaces, having people sort of come in and sort of answer the question, what what does inclusion mean to you? What are those words? And having it be like a word cloud that you could see as soon as you came in. And so people could sort of come in and see, hey, the different perspectives that people were bringing to the space before the storytelling, but also seeing, hey, maybe their perspective might change after hearing the stories. And some of the comments that resonated most with the physical disability story, a business owner was in the audience, and the business owner was like, you know what? I have this business and didn't even consider, can somebody actually get not only in the space, but then you get in the space, can you use the bathroom that's in the space? All these different things that people may not be aware of because we all come to spaces with our own lenses. And those lenses are based off of our personal connections, our experiences, our passions. And so when hearing this, and then other business owners started to say, oh, yeah, that is something, it's like, okay, as a building, you have to be ADA compliant, but not thinking about, okay, that bathroom, does that bathroom have a changing table that can hold somebody who has a physical disability that's not of child size, that is an adult. And so wanting to have those stories sort of give the perspective of, hey, this is what I'm living with. These are some of the challenges. These are some of the sort of the triumphs. Another story that focused on cognitive was highlighting how the participants shared that they could not jump rope in gym class. That was just something physically they weren't able to do. And classmates knew that, classmates supported that and didn't tease them, just were really supportive of, okay. But the teacher, on the other hand, took a different approach and essentially was saying, well, okay, you have to do this. You have to jump this rope. You have to do this for this grade. And what was powerful about that story was that the students came together and said, no, this is not right. You cannot put this person out here, and this is their limitation. And the fact that students rallied and supported shows just the power of community and coming together and what that looks like. The last event was watching a movie, Retchers and Jabbers, where it highlights a story of individuals with a lived disability, cognitive, and a little bit of physical impairments as well. And with that event, we did a graphic that reflected the discussions of each different group and what resonated for people, what was powerful. And some things that came out of that was, hey, being more mindful of how we connect with each other, and being more willing to be open to the experiences of different people on different walks of life. And it was important to do different events to really engage different ways, and also partnering with different organizations that serve that population. Because one of the things we wanted to do was sort of say, hey, you know what? We're stronger together. And what would this look like when we're planning the events together and we're reaching out to community members and we're reaching out to networks? And so this was a really personal chapter to write. And I was really happy to just be able to have that opportunity to contribute to creating a resource that's equitable for students. I also am an educator as well. And I've seen the value in the first open course textbook where students could learn about the field and not have to worry about the cost. And so I see these accompanying each other in so many different ways in terms of just making sure that knowledge it's accessible. And so yeah, I thank the editors just for the opportunity and being willing to bring us all together. Just reading some of the different stories and just how powerful each of those stories have been. It's really a work that was needed, and so glad that you all were willing to put in the time and energy and collectively share your gifts to make it done.
Yep, thanks, Amber. All right, Dr. Summerfield, I think you're up.
Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone. I'm Deidre, and I really wanted to, as a part of this project, really give myself a chance to kind of critically reflect on some of the work that I've done, where I've had questions in my mind and my heart about whether I really did, in some ways, do the work that I needed to do for a community that would be helpful and supportive of that community. It's not often we get a chance to do that, because oftentimes when we have studies that are published, we're publishing success results, outcomes, all of that, right? We're oftentimes exploring something that we can name as an accomplishment, but how often do we get a chance to explore things that we can name as a real learning lesson that can lead to accomplishments in the future? But we have to sit with the fact that you did not come up with and settle with those ideas in the way you planned. There's very few opportunities for us to do that type of critical reflection in our work as community psychologists or as researchers or as community practitioners. So I decided to take a left turn and do that with this project, and it was an important process for me to do, because there are times when we do have to go back and look at things and say, how did that happen? Let's deconstruct this. Let's not sit with the failure, quote unquote, of it, or let's not just sit with the unfulfilled promise of it or the unfulfilled goal of it. Let's critically reflect and deconstruct all parts of it to the point where we can actually see it for what it was and see what the lessons are that we can actually not only learn for ourselves, but learn for other people who may be confronted with some of those same concerns, those same conflicts, those same challenges. And so that, for me, that was the gift in this project, is to look at that, and with a population that's near and dear to my heart, pregnant and parenting women in the South suburbs. I'm originally from the Bay Area, and actually will be moving back to the West Coast sometime this summer to assume a position with a behavioral health organization. I have to wait for the announcement and all that stuff to happen, but it's going to be a very big move for me this year. So I, in all of the time I've spent in Chicago, which has been going on 24 years now, I've had a lot of great opportunities to work with community, including participating for many years in Gala Day. I'm just going to park my discussion for a second to say just how wonderfully excited I am to have everyone else experience, and through Jackie's wonderful writing, what many of us, including me, bringing my daughter to Gala Day is something we look forward to doing before things hit. So, I'm just going to echo Jackie's discussion about how beautiful and actually wonderfully healing and evolving that process is. So I just need to acknowledge, because it was a big part of my life for many years, and I welcomed it and loved it, and look forward to its return as it did at the beachfront. Getting back to the journeys. So when I talked about the journeys into healing past hurt, I referred to it in relationship to the young women that I was talking about, right? I referred to pregnant and parenting women and having a journey of healing past hurt so that they can actually go through a self-reclamation process that they in part design for themselves and embody for themselves. And that was really at the heart of the goal of what I wanted to achieve. But when I look back at it, I was journeying past hurt too. I was journeying past hurt of how things turned out that I really wanted to be different. And so this process was really healing for me, and healing for me to kind of sit with all of the questions that I had, look at the theories that I know that inform some of those questions and challenges, and really get a chance to see the system of oppression that not only in my mind was part of the goal to dismantle through this project, but that impacted the ways I was able to actually implement this project. So I just wanted to say that, I think we should make room for these types of opportunities for discussion in our work together, because it ain't always going to work out the way we want it to. And in fact, there are a lot of things riding against it. So I'm really grateful that when I saw my sister Jerry was involved, I trusted that it would be done in a way that would honor that process for me. So, so I want to say thank you for the opportunity to do this. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this project and be a part of such a wonderful collection of our experiences in relationship to community. And I'm glad to be here with Judy, my other sister, we worked together on some things. So I'm just glad to be here with all of you and glad to be a part of this community that's starting to actually grow the opportunities that our students and our fellow colleagues have to really look at our work in a way and from another perspective. So thank you for creating a platform for that. Thank you.
So thank you, Amber. I think we're going to turn it back over to you. Is that everybody? I think so. Yep.
And so one thing also I want to say, you hear all of the stories from the authors. And as Jerry mentioned at the beginning, this is a live piece of work. So your work is also welcome in this space. And so just really want to make sure to just encourage people of that as each of us has, really shared our process, our commitment. And we know there are others doing practice work that is not represented in this space. And so just want to put that little nugget that this is live, this is open. So yeah, so feel free to reach out to the editors if you'd like to contribute. And so now we want to just transition over to the attendees and see, hey, what questions you might have, either about the book, authors, case studies, anything that's on your heart, mind, and spirit.
I just want to say, I hope that, I used to work for a publishing house for a brief internship, and one of the things that ailed me was that this particular organization had so many amazing books and nuggets from some amazing authors that never really got out there to me the way that they should have gotten out there. And so when I first saw this, Jackie could tell you, I sent it out to the gamut. Everyone who I could think of got an email from me. And it's my hope, that's my contribution, but it's my hope that, that the marketing for this project is really stellar, because the stories in this book are so amazing. I saw myself in so much of it. It was so relatable that it's, I could just see it serving many purposes. I sent it to healers, students, instructors, physicians, and all sorts of things, and people from all creeds to just kind of share this initiative. So I just really want to see it blow up and just get out there, because I was really moved by it. And thank you all. Thank you, Jerry, for the inspiration to just meet our need, because we do need to see our faces more out there. We're here. So thank you.
Thank you. And I just threw in the chat I see Mari. Did anyone reach out to radio and TV to discuss in interviews? We have not done that yet, but we are certainly open if you have contacts. In fact, you just made me think of, I'm sitting on the marketing person that used to work for Flowers, I think. I can't remember the name, but anyway, you just made me think about her in terms of, marketing, etc. But if you have thoughts, please reach out to us to that end.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, that's such an exciting idea of like how much, there could be all kinds of different outward facing media pieces on probably every chapter. I'm thinking about the teaching implications. Thanks again for all the presenters today, the international perspectives, arts-based work, the vulnerabilities of the work. If you haven't struggled, you're not doing it right. And then I'm just thinking in terms of my role as an instructor up at Humboldt State Hispanic Serving Institution with a lot of students from all around California. And I'm very pleased that we now have community psych offered once a year. It was offered once every 2 years. So I finally got it in there once a year. And I'll be designing up my syllabus for the fall. And so this is going to be wonderful. So my question, I guess, is really just an invitation for any suggestions. My initial thought is for students with their reading load, I'll probably turn this into a specific assignment where they get to self-select a chapter, and then they become the expert on that chapter, do an assignment, and then probably some sharing that happens in the classroom where everybody who did the different chapters share what they took from it and what they learned and that kind of a thing to kind of spread the insights. And then I noticed that there's some discussion questions at the end of the chapters, so or the pieces. And so I'll probably be using them. So basically, I was just saying, if you have any suggestions on how, from a pedagogy point of view, of how best to use this in the classroom in a community psychology class, I'd be all ears.
So yeah, thanks, Ben. Yeah, for that. I am using it right now in my community psych class, and these are graduate students earning their PsyDs actually in clinical psychology, but they have a mandated community psychology, introduction to community psychology course. So I'm going to throw my email in the chat, and please feel free to contact me, and I certainly can, share with you what I think, may be helpful in that. And I paired it with the Introduction to Community Psychology textbook, so it's a supplement and required though. It's a supplement to the intro, but it's required. It's a class requirement though. It's not a supplement. It's not suggested, or it is required. So we'll talk though, and I'll be happy to share some things that might be helpful to that end. Okay.
Thanks. That'd be great.
Hey, Ben, one thing that I would add to what you're doing, I think the idea of having students choose, which one resonates most with them makes a lot of sense. And then I also think about, we train students pretty heavily to critique research and kind of traditional scholarship, but less so when it comes to kind of narrative-based work. And so it would be helpful, I think, to hear from students what else that they would have known, what that they would have wanted to know from the case. These are purposefully, summaries, shortened down versions of reality. So what did they miss? What else would they like to know? And if they were to tell the story, maybe what they would do differently, and then kind of relating it to their experiences in community, what's similar and what's different. So it connects to, the work that they're most passionate about. So those are just a couple ideas for prompts and ways to really get them to dig into it.
That's great. Thanks.
And Ben, you did a nice segue into sort of some next steps in terms of what sort of is the goal. And so when we're looking at the textbook, the goal, looking at accessibility and highlighting BIPOC scholars and things of that nature, but we want to take it to also another level in terms of, okay, how can students be supported to contribute? What would a workshop look like? What would it be a mentorship model? So many different ways that can sort of develop. And also looking at doing some sort of event that partners with the Practice Council. And so that could either be one of the Friday events that happens where different speakers are coming and talking about their field or different topics, or it can look a totally different way. And then also, like you mentioned, hey, how can this be connected in the classroom? What sort of activities are students excited about in terms of this textbook, and what are, as Judah mentioned, what are some of those things that, hey, they wanted more, but they didn't, they wanted a deeper dive. And so really creating a space where others that are really utilizing this to be able to sort of learn from each other and share some of that is another way to sort of think about how can the momentum of this initiative continue and grow and support communities.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Amber, for that. And I do want to add as well that when you have a moment, if you have not had an opportunity to take a look at the book, in the back, there are two forms. One of them is a input form that asks for any input that you might have regarding regarding the content, comments, or whatever that might look like. Please feel free to throw your thoughts in there, and they come directly to us. And we want to incorporate those thoughts of the public, of the our readers and audiences, so that we can make the book even better and to that end. And the other one is an adoption form that's in there as well. And I'll get it over to, I think, one of the teachers that left, Samara, shared is she's talking about in the chat. She'll be using the book. She says, I will be using this in my class, which is fantastic. And so there is an adoption form in the back of the book. Please feel free to use it to share, that you will be adopting it. That's helpful for us as well, as we are, also collecting data as to who's using it and what levels, et cetera. And it was our hope that we did construct it so that it could be used at the undergrad to the graduate level, which is another plus actually to it, because again, my classes they're graduate students. But yeah, and so that was the other piece that we wanted to make sure that we were constructing it for a wider range of students to that end. So yeah. Yep. Judy is sharing in the chat, encouraging students to provide feedback. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Judy. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, no, in terms of the use that, though, those of you who are teaching, community psych courses, to the extent that there would be interest in more global kind of perspective and our work in Senegal, because I think there's so many common elements in terms of a strengths-based approach, an intergenerational approach, recognition and involvement of elders along with youth. And no, I was just thinking, I mean, I would be happy, and I think my lead colleague in Senegal, whose English is coming along, if there was interest in having us do a webinar or presentation of something like that to go along with the chapter, we would be open to that. I think, for students, maybe, maybe especially African-American students, but others as well, that could be a real, a complementary piece that we could organize to share beyond what's in the chapter. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Judy, to your point, I'm looking over now at Todd, who is our videographer. And so, yeah, we will certainly be talking about, those pieces, because he's already introduced that as well as putting together even more interactive measures to that end, Judy. So stay tuned on that. We certainly will be letting getting that going. The other thing that I want to share, I know we got to get out of here. The other thing that I want to share is the book, of course, is an e-textbook, and we looked at academia, the academic audience, et cetera, for that work. But we also want to make sure it's called community psychology practice. So it is our goal, as Pilar was sharing, that it gets further than academia, further than the institution, because we believe that it can be instrumental in programs programs in nonprofits and human services, et cetera, yeah, that it could be, used for that end, Jackie, out in the cultural, field and those things. So please don't see it just as an e-textbook dedicated or solely for teaching inside the classroom. Let's take it to the streets, right, where the community is. So I wanted to put that forward. And then I think Todd had something to share as well. And I know, again, we've got to get out. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to agree that, yeah, we are looking for as many of those new kind of interactivity, even problem-based learning units, things where people are getting together and it's not just a static content that's streaming down. It's more of an interactive, relational network. So thank you for that idea.
Okay. Yep, Amber, and I think that I know we all have other meetings, et cetera. So do you want to go ahead and close us out?
Yes.
And yeah, we'll see you again. Hopefully, if you want to come back, please feel free this evening. Yep, thanks, Amber.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming and choosing to occupy this space. We hope to continue to learn from each other this work and allow it to continue to grow. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your time.
Yes.